The story began on a rainy evening when Alexander Knight, one of the country's youngest and most powerful CEOs, stared at his reflection in the tall mirror of his penthouse suite, adjusting not the silk tie and Armani suit that the world knew him for, but a plain, almost worn-out shirt and a pair of faded jeans that no one could imagine him wearing. He had built a billion-dollar empire in real estate and technology, his name on every magazine cover, yet the pressure of wealth and fame left him weary of people who only saw dollar signs instead of his heart, and after years of disappointment in love, he decided to try something reckless and different. The twist came when his loyal assistant arranged a blind date through a friend, not revealing Alexander's true identity, only describing him as a single father with twins, struggling in life. To make it real, Alexander brought along his adorable 6-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan, who were the sunshine of his world and the only two who could melt the walls he had built around his soul. With their tiny hands clutching his, he walked into a modest little cafe on the corner of a quiet street, far away from his luxury world of chandeliers and glass towers. That was where he first saw her, Clara Bennett, a young woman with tired eyes but a radiant smile, someone who clearly carried her own burdens yet radiated a warmth that reached across the room. Clara was a kindergarten teacher, living on a modest paycheck, supporting her younger sister through college after their parents had passed away, and though her life was hard, she had learned to find joy in simple things. When she saw Alexander walk in, not as the polished CEO but as a man in worn clothes with 2 lively kids tugging at his arms, she thought he was just another struggling single dad trying to make ends meet. The evening unfolded with laughter and surprising comfort. Emma showed Clara her drawing of a house with "Mommy" written under it, which broke Alexander's heart but also softened the edges of his grief for his late wife. Clara, rather than being uncomfortable, leaned in and told Emma she drew beautifully, even promising to show her how to make flowers with crayons next time. For the first time in years, Alexander felt something shift inside him, not attraction at first sight, but the rare sense that this woman wasn't measuring him by his wallet, that she genuinely cared for the kids. The twins adored her instantly, chattering away as if they had known her forever. Alexander kept his secret close, listening as Clara shared about her dreams, her struggles, her belief that people were worth more than their possessions, and every word pierced deeper than any compliment he had received in the boardroom. As the rain poured harder outside, the cozy cafe became a world of its own, and though he had planned this charade as just an experiment, Alexander found himself dreading the moment it would end. When he offered to walk Clara home, umbrella in one hand and kids skipping through puddles, she laughed with them as if she already belonged, and in that laughter, Alexander's heart, guarded for years, cracked open. What he didn't know was that Clara, too, felt something unfamiliar that night, a strange pull toward this man who seemed broken yet strong, ordinary yet extraordinary, and though she told herself it was just a kind evening, she couldn't shake the thought of him later as she tucked herself in bed. That night was the beginning of something none of them expected, a story where lies and truth would collide, where a man who had everything pretended to have nothing, and where a woman who had nothing but love might discover she was worth more than gold. But little did Alexander know, his small lie would grow into the biggest test of his life, and Clara's trust, the most precious thing, would be the hardest to win back when the truth finally came out. Chapter 2, almost equals 2,000 words, single paragraph. The days that followed their first meeting unfolded like pages of a book Alexander never wanted to end, as he and Clara began to meet more often, sometimes at the park where the twins played on the swings while Clara pushed them higher, other times at Clara's small apartment where she cooked simple but delicious meals that filled his heart more than any 5-star restaurant ever had. For Clara, who had always believed that love wasn't for her because of her heavy responsibilities, Alexander's presence was like a quiet miracle. Yet she still thought he was just a man struggling to raise kids, scraping by paycheck to paycheck, and that made her admiration even deeper, because she saw his devotion and strength instead of wealth. For Alexander, every moment in disguise was a bittersweet gift, because he could see clearly that Clara's affection for him wasn't built on the empire he owned but on the men he was underneath. The twins grew attached quickly, asking for Clara when they woke up, running to her with little drawings and handmade gifts, and secretly whispering to their father that they wished she could be their mommy. Slowly, Clara's heart healed from years of loneliness, and she realized she had begun to dream again, of a life where laughter filled her days, where love was no longer a burden but a joy. Yet Alexander's secret weighed heavier with each passing day, because though he knew she loved him for who he was, he also feared that the revelation of his lie, that he had pretended to be poor, would break the fragile bond they had built. The turning point came one evening when Clara, after a long day at school, was surprised to find Alexander waiting outside with the twins, holding flowers clumsily picked by Emma and Ethan. He invited her to a special dinner, and she agreed, thinking it would be another modest evening. Instead, he took her to a grand hotel downtown, where he revealed, for the first time, his true world. At first, Clara thought it was a mistake, until she saw the staff bowing and addressing him as Mr. Knight. Her eyes widened as realization crashed over her. The man she thought was a struggling father was, in fact, the billionaire CEO she had seen in newspapers. Shock and hurt mingled inside her chest, and though he tried to explain, saying he wanted to be sure she loved him without the shadow of money, Clara felt betrayed, because trust was sacred to her, and lies, no matter the reason, cut deep. She left the dinner in tears, despite the twins begging her to stay, and Alexander was left staring at the empty seat, realizing he might have lost the only woman who truly saw him. Days turned into weeks as Clara kept her distance, torn between her love for the children and her broken trust in their father. Yet destiny wasn't done with them. One evening, when Clara's sister fell seriously ill and she had no money for the hospital bills, Alexander showed up. Not with his wealth on display, but with quiet support, standing by her side, ensuring her sister received the best care without asking for gratitude. It was then Clara saw the men again, not the CEO or the billionaire, but the same men who had walked into the cafe in worn-out jeans, holding his twins' hands. Slowly, her walls softened, because she realized his love had been real even if his methods were flawed. When the twins hugged her tightly and whispered they wanted her to be their mommy, tears rolled down Clara's cheeks, and in that moment, she chose forgiveness. Alexander, on his knees in front of her, promised never to hide again, vowing that his fortune, his company, his empire meant nothing if he didn't have her by his side. And with the city lights glittering behind them, Clara finally said yes, not to his money, not to his status, but to the men who loved her enough to risk everything just to prove it. Their love story became not one of wealth and power, but of truth, healing, and family, as Alexander, Clara, Emma, and Ethan built a life together where laughter replaced loneliness, where dreams were shared, and where love was worth more than all the gold in the world. And dear viewer, if you felt your heart moved by this journey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because many more stories of love, hope, and unexpected twists are waiting for you, stories that will inspire, surprise, and remind you that true love is found in the most unexpected places.